Welcome back. New trailer for, I wanted to call it Avengers. That's not right. Avatar, the Last Avatar series on Netflix. This is the live action one. New trailer showing some stuff. I have some thoughts. I want to start by saying go check out the Hello Future Me and the over analyzing Avatar videos breaking down this trailer. They go into a lot of details and stuff, and they do a very good job. So go watch those videos. But I'm continuing to be very skeptical about this series, but at the same time, I'm very curious, and I kind of want to watch it, even though I don't know that it's gonna be good. I don't know where to start with this trailer. Okay, a couple things that I like. We get to actually hear the characters say dialogue this time, which was one thing that I thought of after I ended up posting my video that I didn't even think about, is that like that first trailer, which was a teaser trailer, doesn't really show the characters talking, so it's kind of hard to judge, like, are any of them going to be good actors? Hard to tell. But in this trailer we get a few lines of dialogue. One, like, particularly Sokka gets a couple lines which I thought were pretty good and felt very much like Sokka, like the character, so good work on that. But again, it's this but it's this constant, like, weird, oh, it's the thing I know, but it's a little bit different, and that's throwing me off, but also I'm kind of into it because there's stuff I recognize. I don't know. The music obviously also does a lot to, like, help sell this. My brain is having trouble focusing on what it is that I even wanted to say. Okay, like, yeah, okay. Okay. So, like, for example, in that, there's one of the lines that Sokka delivers, which I think is decent. It's nice that they remember to put humor in this show. That was the one thing I was worried about, is, like, Avatar is a funny show. It's got a lot of really great comedic moments on top of being a very powerful, emotional, dramatic story too. It does both. And so it looks like we're going to get a little bit of levity in this show, which is nice. It's good that they remembered aspects of the original series. But again, tonally, it's going to be tricky to walk that line. But in one of those parts, they do the thing where Aang is spinning on the ball and then he crashes into the statue, and it's the part from the. Although his airbending skills are great, but he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. It's that part, and it's not as cool as when it's not as good as when they did it in the cartoon, and like, I appreciate them trying to put stuff directly from the cartoon into the show, but, like, it doesn't have that same impact when Aang smashes into that thing, that rock or whatever the fuck it is. It doesn't hit as hard. And, like, if you can see it in the, like, side by sides, that, like, it's not just that he crashes into a thing, it's just every aspect of that whole shot is carefully and cleverly planned and paced to perfectly hit that beat. It's not just that he's spinning on a thing and then crashes. It's like him doing a thing. There's a wind up to it. He starts out slow, but then he gets, like, faster as he goes. He's, like, laughing. He's confident, and then the smash, like, it, like, really looks like it fucking hurt him, but it's funny because of, like, the build up, the pacing of it, all of that, and then he smashes in it, like, is a really strong impact. And there might be more to the shot, but in the live action one, what they've shown, he goes around once and then smashes into it, and it doesn't look like it hurt that much. And I might say that I'm saying it's funnier if a child really gets hurt real bad than if he gets hurt not that bad. But, like, kind of, like, it works because it's a cartoon also. Like, it's funny if a cartoon gets hurt because he's a cartoon. If it's a real kid, maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's harder to, like, I don't know. The point I'm trying to make is that, like, you can't just copy the thing from the cartoon in live action unless you're really going to do it perfectly. Lots of other cartoon to live action stuff have had this problem, but like the example that's coming to mind, this might be a weird stretch, but is the Scarlett Johansson Ghost in the Shell movie, which copies a lot of shots directly from the original anime, but does them worse and, like, misses the point of, like, what is interesting and compelling about the shots that they're mimicking. Like there's this one iconic shot of the Major like sitting up, and she's silhouetted by her window, and we see all of like Tokyo behind her. And then like just weird coincidentally, they did this shot better in the movie Lost in Translation, which came out like 10 or 15 years before the live action Ghost in the Shell movie, and it just happened to also take place in Tokyo and star Scarlett Johansson and have that shot in it, and it's like way better in that movie, and that's not even a Ghost in the Shell thing. So I'm that's like the most concerning shot for me, I think, is the air scooter smash into the rock thing, because it's like the most telling that like they're copying stuff from the original without really the knowledge or the skill of like why that stuff worked in the first place. Like that's the vibe I'm getting from that type of thing. There's a lot of other stuff going on in this trailer. Like one of the things I liked, and mostly it's just because like, oh, it's things I know, is we see like a bunch of characters from the series that I didn't realize we were gonna fit all of them into this one season. It's only 8 episodes, but they're all an hour long. So if you do the math, it actually ends up being a little bit longer than the first season of Avatar. However, the first season of Avatar has a very like episodic feel to it. So every episode they end up in a new town and a new location, and they meet new characters. So there's like a bunch of characters we meet, some of which like aren't really that important, but a bunch of them do end up coming back and becoming like more important later on in the series. So it looks like we're actually seeing a decent chunk of those characters. Like we see Jet briefly, which he looks great. We see June, the lady with the giant mole, but her skin is flawless. Damn right it is. She looking fucking good. We see Havi, the panda spirit, who also turns into a Cloverfield monster. Like stuff like that. I'm like, oh, we're doing that too. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they fit all this stuff into this season. Like one thing that people have pointed out is we see some stuff of Omashu, and one of the things we see in Omashu is we see I forgot to look up the guy's name, but we see the mechanist's son, who is in a wheelchair, and he's like flying around on his glider thing with Aang in Omashu. So it looks like they're combining the Omashu episode with the episode where they meet the mechanist and their whole deal, which is an interesting idea. We'll see how that plays out, but like I'm a little worried that like we're just trying to fit the mechanist is a weird character to even try to include at all in the first place. Like in my mind, he does become important-ish later on in the series, and it does like lead to the invention of the war balloons, which become like super important in the 3rd season. But like the episode on its own is like kind of a weird self-contained thing that is like a very season 1 episode where it's not the strongest episode, but it does have some interesting themes. Like the most interesting concept in that episode is that there's this group of people who have taken up residence in the Northern Air Temple because they've been like displaced from the war that's going on. And the air temple is empty because all the air nomons got genocided. And so Aang has to like wrestle with this really interesting conflict where these people who don't have a place to live found refuge in this temple, but at the same time they're like industrializing it, and they're like appropriating his culture. The whole reason the wheelchair kid can like fucking glide around is because they've took those designs from the air nomads. They're taking their shit and like reusing it. So like my mind immediately goes to like, well, wait a minute, how did he figure out how did this wheelchair kid figure out how to have a glider if they're just hanging out in Omashu? Like why would they know to do that? That's like part of the whole point of that episode. So I don't know, maybe it'll be all be explained, it'll make sense. I don't know. It's like an interesting but also like at the same time I could see like it could be a bad look for them to completely cut out the only character in the entire franchise to use a wheelchair. But I don't know, he's not that important of a character to be honest. So I don't know. I'm very very curious about this show. I don't know how it'll be, but I kind of want to watch it just out of curiosity, and just because like I don't know, everyone else is gonna be watching it. I don't want to be left. Sounds stupid. What else? Oh yeah, it seems like we might be seeing Firelord Sozin personally helping the genocide of the air nomads, which is interesting. And it seems like we might even get a like Sozin v Monkeyatsu. Fuck, I don't know. We might be getting a fight between those two, which feels very like fan fictiony, but like could theoretically happen. Maybe it's interesting. Like again, it's that stuff that like maybe happened, but we didn't really focus on it in the show too much. It feels definitely like we're gonna get like a full, like I'm guessing that'll be kind of like the Lord of the Rings intro battle sequence where it's like this huge battle that was the start of the 100-Year War that's gonna like kick off the scale of everything and like the stakes of what's happening and like the threat of the comet and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, again, it feels like they're maybe missing part of the point of that moment where like it feels like the whole, is this a trick question? Because the air nomads didn't have a formal military. Sozin defeated them by ambush. It's that thing where it's like, did they miss? I don't know. We'll see how it's done. Could be cool. Hard to say. The other thing I was thinking about is there's a lot of like CG in this show, which of course there is. And I gotta say, from what we've seen in this trailer, most of the bending looks pretty good, which is the main thing you want to get right. If at the very least we have cool bending, I get it. I get why this show is made. Like that's like the best thing about Korra. Korra has a lot of problems, but the bending, fucking cool as hell. So if they don't fuck that up at least, then we're on the right track. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, there was a lot of CG and stuff in this show, and like there was one in I think it was in one of Overanalyzing Avatar's videos. He pointed out that like some of the some of the cities and stuff that we see look very much like the cities and stuff from the cartoon. So good on them for having stuff look like what it's supposed to. But they also look like very CGE, right? Like it's very obviously CGI. And he pointed out like yeah, it does, but at the same time, like what are they supposed to do? Build these cities for real? And then I thought about that for a minute and I was like, yeah. Actually, yeah. They did that in Lord of the Rings. It's called miniatures. You could do that and they look good. Like they just the what's weird to me is it seems like this show, from what I've from my minimal research, it seems like this show has a pretty big budget. I read somewhere and this could be not perfectly accurate, but I read somewhere that it was somewhere looking like around 15 million per episode, which is comparable to the later seasons of Game of Thrones. But this show kind of still looks kind of cheap, at least from this trailer. And I don't know if that's a Netflix thing, 'cause some of their stuff, but then like Stranger Things comes out and looks fucking awesome. So I don't know, something about it like even other stuff too is like had this problem. Other fantasy shows have had this problem too, where they spend a lot of money on them and then they still kind of look sort of cheap when they come out. Like I feel like the Percy Jackson show has this problem a little bit, where it supposedly has like a decent budget behind it, but at the same time stuff looks like kind of cheapish. I don't know. It's like if you're gonna spend, my point, I guess, is if you're gonna spend all this money and time making this show into live action and like doing and trying to do it justice, like then fucking do that. Like then spend the money that it takes to create this elaborate fantasy world. And like I don't know if they just like are. It's the classic. They're not giving their CG artists enough time to make this stuff look like 10 out of 10. But I don't know. It's like they've been working on the show for a while. I don't know why. Like I don't know exactly what the timeline is, but it feels like it's been a while since the show was announced. So if they need more time, then give them more time. Like if you're gonna fucking commit to making this show, then like make it as good as it can possibly be. Like spend the time and money to make it look good. Yeah, like Appa and Momo, for example, they look okay, but it depends on the shot. And I kept just thinking like, just why not just do them as puppets? Like remember Neverending Story? Remember that? Remember there was a big furry dragon guy in that, and he's a big puppet, and he looks pretty good because it's practical. You could just do that. You could just make Appa that. Momo should just be a fucking puppet. Remember Grogu? Remember a little baby Yoda? He's a puppet, and everyone fucking loves him. Just do that. Just do that. Why are you bothering to, like, I get it. He's got to, like, fly around and stuff. You can't do a puppet for every shot, but, like, some shots you definitely could. Remember when Netflix made a Dark Crystal show and it looked fucking awesome because it's, like, all practical effects? Remember that? Remember when they made stuff that was good? I don't know. I'm kind of rambling here. There is good looking stuff in this trailer, and I want to say cautiously optimistic. I don't know. I'm probably too cynical to be that. I do want to give it a shot. And maybe I'll do like a drunk watch or something. That might be more of my speed. That might be fun. Oh yeah, Ozai. We see Ozai in this trailer. We see him in the last trailer too. And like, again, here's a thing where it's like I'm not sure. It depends on how they do it, but I'm not sure if they're like. Oh yeah, and Azula. That was the other thing. Okay, two more things. Okay, with Ozai. Fire Lord Ozai, we see his face. In the show, in the cartoon, we don't see Ozai's face, or we don't get a clear look at his face until the third season when Zuko finally returns home. Now, the reveal of Ozai's face is not like, oh, I didn't expect him to look like that. Like, when we see him, he just looks like a guy. There's nothing like particularly special about the way that he looks. It's more just about the buildup of it, and the way that builds tension in the reveal of this villain, and the reveal and in how it relates to Zuko's arc, because Zuko has been banished from the Fire Nation, and so he's not even physically able to look upon his father until he misguidedly thinks he's restored his honor in the third season, and he finally sees his father again. It's like a big significant character moment for Zuko that we don't see the Fire Lord's face. It's not like that we're like I could see that being the logic of like why bother not showing him, because we all know what he's going to look like already because we've seen the original series, and also you can look up the actor's face, so like you could just look up what he looks like already. He's in other stuff. But it's like it's not about like them hiding Ozai's face was never about hiding what he looks like. It was about it was a way to like to emphasize the emotional threat of the Fire Lord, right? So that's the stuff I'm like worried about. It's like if we are going to show his face early, we have to think about why. And we have to think about like what that means for the story. Like it might just be fine. It might just be like we're just going to show him and not worry too much about it. But like there are all these choices from the original show were made for specific reasons. So if you're going to change something, you have to think about it. And that's what I'm like a little bit worried about, is the stuff that does look like is some of the stuff that is different. I'm not sure that it's going to be like justified. Like, for example, we see more Azula in this trailer. We saw a little bit of her in the previous trailer, and it looks like we're introducing her much earlier on than in the original show. But I'm worried, like, I'm getting the vibe. It's giving me similar to vibes to like Ciri and season 1 of The Witcher on Netflix. And that show also, I feel like, looks way better than this. But I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering it. I guess it's mostly smaller scale. Like it's mostly Henry Cavill grunting and walking through the woods, and he's got a horse, and that's like half the show. So maybe it was easier to save on budget in that one. I don't know. Anyways, but I'm getting like season 1 Ciri in the vibes in the Witcher show, like that's the similar vibe to Azula in this trailer, where the problem with Ciri in season 1 of The Witcher is that like she had fucking nothing to do. She becomes a really important character later on in that franchise, but because this first season is all about like before Geralt meets Ciri, Ciri ends up having fuck all to do that whole season, and they like bring her in early, but then they give her nothing to work with. I'm afraid that's going to happen with Azula, where it's like, oh, Azula is like a super important character in the series, but she doesn't get introduced until the very, very end of season 1 of the show, of the cartoon. But here we're bringing her in early because she becomes a super important character later on in the series. But I feel like they're not going to give her anything interesting to do. So then it's going to be like, why did we bother introducing her early? Yeah, so that kind of stuff that like worries me of like could be interesting, but could be also like, oh wait a minute, why did we change this thing when it worked perfectly fine how it was? And that all comes back to like, why make this at all? Because you can just watch the original show and it's really good. Anyways, I don't know. I'm rewatching the show right now, and yeah, it's great, and that's something that I think I gotta keep reminding myself is this won't take away from the show that I already know and love, so I can just always go back to that whenever. But I'm very very curious about this show, and I kind of want to watch it, even though I'll probably end up getting disappointed by it. I don't know. What do you think? Are you into this new trailer? Are you into this into seeing more live action things? I do really really like this world, and so that might just be enough for me. Just like, oh, more of this world. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, Avatar is also one of those. It's just like the bar is so high because it has this huge reputation, and rightfully so. It's one of, if not the best animated series, at least from the West, at least, that's ever been done. Yeah, like I don't need to add any more clarifiers to that. It's one of the best shows ever. Like, it's not even a best animated thing. Like, I don't even need to specify that really. So it's going to be very very tricky to do this well. So I don't know. I'm cautious, but I hope they pull it off. Like, I hope I'm any of my doubts are wrong and it ends up being great. Yeah. What do you think? Are you into this? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Are you looking forward to this? Do you think it looks like garbage? How come they don't spend more money or do more things practically when we know that always looks better? Leave a comment. What do you think? I've said that like 3 times now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time with something else. Avatar, Last Airbender. At least it'll be better than the Shyamalan version. So we'll always have that. Bye-bye.